Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a young guy. It sounds like he's in his mid to late 20s. And he shares his story about how in his early 20s, sometime in college around that area, he met this girl that he had a fantastic relationship with at first. They were having a great time, spending a lot of time together, hooking up left and right. It was like the stars were aligned. He truly thought he found a unicorn. And then after about 5 months where everything was going great, all of a sudden she started spending more time with her friends who were all overweight, covered in tattoos, and last but not least, a bunch of feminists. And next thing you know, she starts talking about politics all the time and things about the patriarchy and all sorts of other crap that isn't fair with this world and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, the girl that he started dating, had a great time with, became a thing of the past. And by the way, in the first 5 months when things were going great, they were hooking up left and right multiple times a day. I mean, having a lot of fun. And as time went on, the hooking up became less and less and less, to the point that it was like once or twice a month. And just their whole relationship, what they had, went right down the toilet. And eventually you're going to see he kicks her ass to the curb because he's had enough. And let's just say she's not very happy about that, nor are her a bunch of effing his friends. And I'm doing this, guys, to show you the kind of impact, how for you guys to do relationships, how important it is to find out who your girl hangs out with, because they're going to have an impact on her. They're going to influence her. Unless she's a very strong-willed girl and is not going to let other people influence her in that way, the odds are her friends, even if she is strong-willed, they're going to have an influence on her anyway. So she's hanging around a bunch of people that are single and unhappy about it. Maybe they're a bunch of effinists. It may rub off on her eventually and have an impact on your relationship. Okay? Another thing is how it's so important, guys, to pay attention to all things in relationships. And if things aren't going well, if your relationship has gone from an actual romantic relationship where you're having a great time together and you're hooking up all the time to the point that it's like you pretty much have to beg for sex, not that you should ever do that, well, it's pretty much become a friendship, and you might as well just jump ship and move on. So a lot of lessons here to go over here, but also how the feminist movement has just turned women who are once more feminine and more enjoyable to be with to just these angry as all hell types that you see all the time nowadays. It's just really unfortunate. But anyhow, guys, I'm going to go through his story here, and it definitely ends well because he's doing well for himself. He's come out on top. Meanwhile, her, you'll see. Starts off, he says, my name is Blake. After high school, I started going to community college to knock out a few prerequisites to eventually transfer over to a major university in my area. Up until this point in my life, I really hadn't had much success with women. I consider myself fairly attractive and fit, but I was continually getting ghosted / unmatched, maybe because I was too young or still live at my mom's place. It could have been that, or just maybe your confidence wasn't quite there yet, and you were young. He says, while going to community college, I started work at a call center nearby to make some money to help pay for school. During my time at the call center, I met this very cute and very shy girl there. She was everything I wanted physically. I was super attracted to her. She didn't have any tattoos, which I liked about her. She had a beautiful face, a flawless body. He says fairly fit, but not skinny or scrawny, and thick in all the right places. Sounds like my type, man, and I'm with you with the tattoos. I'm not attracted to women with tattoos. It's one thing, maybe they have a little, the tramp stamp or the hoe tag above their butt. That's about it. But beyond that, any visible tattoos on their legs, their arms, it's a major turnoff for me. And nowadays, it's hard to find a woman that doesn't have them on them. He says, there really wasn't one thing that I could have changed about her. I was head over heels for her. Easy there, buddy. When guys start getting head over heels for a woman, that's where they start making mistakes. He says, after a few months, we started seeing each other consistently. Things got serious, we got intimate, and we got into a committed relationship. I hadn't had much experience with women, but let me start over here. I didn't have much experience with women, but by the way she did initiate things. He wrote this wrong, that's why I can't read this right. He says, I could tell she hadn't had much experience with guys at all. We were still both very young. I basically had to instruct her how after a few times of her doing it really awkwardly. She also wasn't a great kisser, but neither was I really. Well, you guys were late bloomers. It is what it is. I think she was just too shy to ever allow guys into her life and never allowed guys to get that far with her. In terms of a low body count, innocence, and looks, I truly had found my unicorn. So far, He says, she and I were crazy about each other for the first few months. We were fooling around in the back seat of our cars in parking lots doing multiple rounds per night, sometimes until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with work the next day. No one at work knew that we were seeing each other. We would head into work on a couple hours of sleep sometimes, and we would grin at each other simply because we knew how crazy the night was before and how insanely tired we both looked. Things were amazing for the first few months. Well, that's usually how it goes, guys. Everything's new, everything's exciting, and then things change. And in this situation, her friends. About 5 months into the relationship, I started to realize things that hadn't come up before. Not to be political, but I started to realize that she was very, and he writes this in giant capital letters, very progressive. And she started complaining about many things going on in the world. She always complained about the patriarchy, Christianity, and men, or other things like that. So not a word about that stuff. The first few months, everything was wonderful. She was a very feminine girl, having a great time. And then, boom. Where do you think all that came from? I felt like she was being influenced by her friends or someone else because I had never really heard things like that out of her before this. It's definitely her friends and the people she's hanging out with, because if she was truly like that, there is no way she'd be able to keep it quiet for 5 months like that. There is no way. And I know some guys might be thinking, oh, it's a bait and switch. This is who she really is. I actually think that the girl he met before was who she was. Maybe she had some feelings about some of these issues deep down, who knows. But believe me, what he's describing here would have come out in varying degrees ahead of time. Mark my words. He says, I now notice that she would try to compete with me on certain things as well, even if it was obvious and she was in the wrong or knew nothing about it. She would bring up political topics and feminist ideologies at random times and would persist, even though I would try to ignore the topics. Yeah, sounds like a whole lot of fun, huh? You guys were having a blast before, hooking up left and right. He truly, like he said, he thought he found a unicorn. And then she hangs out with her feminist friends, who you're going to see in this description, all overweight, tattooed, single, I might add, and no doubt bitter. And they're influencing her. And these types, that's all they can talk about. Right? This is why I think that she wasn't like this before. That's all they talk about, is these type of things. All the injustices in the world and blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, he says, I also noticed that even though we were in a committed relationship, she was still going to clubs with her single, overweight, tattooed-up girlfriends who always spent their weekends getting drunk and trying to hook up with guys. Well, given the fact they were all single and overweight and covered in tattoos and obviously a bunch of feminists, is there any wonder they were obviously trying every weekend but probably not getting anywhere. He says, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with tattoos, I just don't prefer them on women I date because it tends to be more progressive women who get them. She then slowly started to gravitate towards getting a tattoo as well. I assume because all of her friends had them. She started to talk like her ratchet friends at times, as well as which was being a bit annoying. This is definitely the time when it's time to jump ship, because essentially she stopped being the person that you started dating. Mark my words, if you did a complete 180 in your personality and all that stuff, I guarantee you she'd jump ship too. You were being the same person, but she was being completely different. I'd move on. But this guy stays with her all this time. As time went on, the frequency of the sex and the enthusiasm during sex diminished. Maybe once or twice per month. Holy crap. 4 or 5 times a day to once or twice per month? I mean, talk about serious blue balls, man. Yeah, jump ship. I explained to her that I did not feel comfortable with her continuing to put herself in situations like those nightclubs, clubbing, drinking, music festivals, etc. Especially when the sexuality between us has slowed down so much. Well, there's obviously a reason it slowed down so much. Those discussions about how I didn't like the clubbing and didn't want her to get the tattoos eventually led to accusations of how I was controlling and insecure, or how she may be having a hormonal imbalances. Mark my words, the less sex was in one way. I bet she was about control. That she was taking ownership of her body, and this is her way to control you. I guarantee, because that's what a lot of these feminist types tried to do. They want to control. You know, that's how they know they can control their man, with the sex. Before, she was feminine and natural and girly and came to you, and you had a great time, and you're together and hooking up left and right. And now it's boom, 180. Tell me again, people, how great the feminist movement, how well it's doing for relationships and marriages and couples and all that. It's an absolute mess. He says, I just felt that she had gotten too comfortable with having me around. There was no separation anxiety whatsoever. Well, there is some truth to that. You were spending a shitload of time together, which way too much that I would recommend. It's best to get together once a week. And it sounds crazy to some people that are madly in love with each other, but when a girl is with you all the time and she doesn't have any time to be away from you and think about you, wonder what you're up to, her attraction level is going to start coming down. That's why it's important, guys, to have your space and you go out and do your thing all the time with your buddies, focusing on your purpose and all that. This is, of course, if you guys do relationships. And you get to see her once a week, maybe twice on occasion. And that way she's going to be really looking forward to seeing you. But if you're around her all the time, it almost becomes just like boring and routine. And she'll go after guys that she can't have around all the time. Just a little tip for you relationship guys. This is shit I've learned time and time again over the years, guys. This is not the relationship channel, but I'll throw in tips and advice I've learned along the way to help you guys out. Anyhow. He says, she no longer initiated intimacy at all, and initiating the intimacy all the time on my end started to feel like a chore to me. My needs went unmet, and it felt even worse because she would sexually tease and poke hints at doing sexual things, but would never actually just make the effort to initiate. Yeah, she's messing with you. Exactly. She's like, it's just like, it's like the matador holding up the red flag and the red thing, and the bull charges him, getting out of the way and just messing with him, I mean, maybe that's a bad analogy, but you get my point. She's messing with you for control. As more time went on, every cry for help that I made about the lack of initiation or intimacy on her end was slowly turned around on me about how I no longer give her gifts and how I no longer did as many of the nice and thoughtful things that I did at the beginning of the relationship. Well, she's not exactly the same person in the relationship, so why should you be? I realized that the sex was now being entirely leveraged against me, and that was a bitter pill to swallow. Right. But, my friend, you should have gotten out of there. Why'd you stick around so long? But, you were young. I get it. And you didn't know any better. You were inexperienced. But believe me, I guarantee you now, with him telling this story, he would never put up with this crap. After another 6 months or so of hoping to make things work with her, but with no change, he says 2 years in the relationship, I ended the relationship and told her that she never cared about me or my needs. She texted me a month later after I ended the relationship saying that she was ready to talk all about it. You broke up with her and it took her a whole month to get back to you and decide at that moment then she was ready to talk about it. That shows you just how low on the totem pole you became to her. I mean, literally broke up and she's like, whatever. And then a month later when she realized you weren't coming back, then she obviously realized, oh shit, maybe I need to reach out to this guy. But you're going to see there's conditions to this. He says, she texted me a month later after I ended it, blah, blah, blah. When we met up to talk about it, she said that she had spoken with a few of her friends, the feminists, who said I shouldn't have ended the relationship due to a lack of intimacy. That if I really loved her, the intimacy wouldn't matter. These are the same friends that are single, no man, overweight, unhappy, bitter, and a bunch of feminists. And she's going to take advice from them. She's going to take advice from a bunch of girls that have no men in their lives. Does that make a whole lot of sense? Remember, guys, this is why I tell you, watch who your girl hangs out with. They're going to have an influence on her, especially if she's susceptible to other people's influences. I can't stress that enough. And by the way, if they're not hooking up, it's no longer a romantic relationship. It's a friendship. And this guy wanted a romantic relationship. He wanted the girl that he started off with. Man, how they impacted her. He says that I should be willing to compromise to keep her in my life. Where's her compromising? There's been none. She told me that I had also thought about everything. She told me that she had also thought about everything and had decided that she wasn't willing to try to make it work. She said that she needed to find out who she was without me, which basically means slept around with every guy on the planet. Very perceptive, my man. I'm sure that was a very hard pill to swallow, but that's pretty much it. When women say, I got to go find out who I am, I got to go work on myself, blah, 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 that's their way of saying we're done, and I pretty much want to go ride the carousel. Let's see how it works out for her in the long run. And I bet you she probably has a tattoo now. It was very painful for the first few months after the relationship ended. I knew that my once an actual unicorn had now become corrupted and sabotaged by her single and overweight friends who knew nothing about relationships. See? Misery loves company. Now, because I guarantee you they were jealous of her, so they just filled her head with a bunch of crap, and after a while it worked. It's unfortunate. But hey man, it's her loss, because you're a good guy, you're on your purpose, you got shit going on for you, so you have the last laugh. Since the breakup, I can assume that she's probably been out there getting the tattoos that she wanted and sleeping around. She is a different person than me now and no longer holds the unicorn status in my eyes that she once did. She was once my shot at feeling comfortable settling down with someone, but that's how now rusted away into the dust thanks to her self-serving friends and misleading ideologies. Hey, it's her loss, and one day she's going to wake up and realize that she's alone and missed out on you. And I'm willing to bet you, my friend, that down the road it could take a year, 5 years, 10 years, she's going to reach out to you. She's going to reach out to you and probably be 40 pounds heavier, covered in tattoos. I want to give it another chance. You're going to be like, see ya. I'm dating a girl that's 10 years younger than you, thin, feminine, girly, and fun to be around, and not one of these progressive assholes and babbling on about the patriarchy and things like that. Adios, amigo. I have since put my head down, followed this channel and other channels like yours, implemented the concept, worked on myself, got in a pretty great shape, and I finally graduated with a bachelor's degree from a top 50 business school in the United States and got a high-paying job in the area of the country that I am in. Awesome, bro. Congratulations. That's what a man should do. Focus on your purpose. You know, I got no problem. If you guys do relationships or want to date, okay, cool, fine. But the girls are the bottom of the list of your priorities, especially when you are in your 20s. You got to focus on yourself because what you do in your 20s, it's going to pretty much set the course for the rest of your life, guys. Believe me, I guarantee guys are watching this now who are a little bit longer along in life, 30s, 40s, 50s, and they look back to how much time they spent chasing ass when they could have been focusing on their purpose and realize what it could have done for them, how much money they would have saved, things like that. Believe me, they would tell the young guys watching this, please put the girls aside. You know, if you want to date, fine, but they're the bottom of the list. If there's literally one night you have to see them, and if you have to study for an exam or something like that, or you got something, or focusing on your purpose versus going out with a girl, focus on your purpose. You know, girls are at the bottom of the list. There's always going to be women if you want to date them. Just focus on yourself, making yourself the best you can be, like this guy is, and they'll be flocking towards you. He says, I'm now having more success on dating apps than I was in my earlier 20s with some of the same women who I could never have been able to match with in my early 20s. Well, be careful there, dude. I mean, you are doing great for yourself, and I guarantee because of your success, you're feeling good, and you're walking around, walking tall, feeling confident, talking confident, all that, and that's going to attract more women. Absolutely. But keep in mind, be aware that there are women that wouldn't have given you the time of day when you're younger, but now they're giving you the time of day because they're getting older, closer to 30, and no woman wants to get near 30 if they're not at least on their way to the altar, at least most. So keep that in mind when all of a sudden these girls that wouldn't give you the time of day when you're younger, all of a sudden giving you all this attention. Now, you've done a lot to work on yourself, and that's awesome. So that's part of it, okay? But also remember, so a lot of them are starting ready to settle. So just be aware of that. If all of a sudden you think you're James Bond. I'm not doing this to be a jerk. I'm being honest with you. Since dating apps have been overrun with women fishing for Instagram followers, OnlyFans sellers, and women who just want a window shop for a simp who will tell them anything to boost their ego or give them attention, I've been trying to get out and meet some women in public. I'm getting quite a lot of looks and feel that women gravitate towards me more. Yeah, because you feel good about yourself. You're confident. You're focusing on your purpose, and having success has given you that confidence, and that confidence is showing up all around you. It's like a magnet. He says here, I saved up enough for a down payment on a house. I'm now set to close on a relatively newly built house in the next few weeks. It's small, but meets my needs. Live within your financial means, guys. Don't stretch yourself too thin. Yes, he got himself a place. Great investment. Okay, if it's a house, you can live there forever, or at least until it appreciates enough in value that maybe you sell it later on down the road to get something better. Who the fuck knows? You know, yeah, live within your means. Live frugal. Find ways to cut your costs down, save that money, invest that money, diversify those investments, watch it grow. The more money you got, guys, the more options you have, the more freedom you have. Most problems in life can be solved with money. Okay, not all, but most. So the more you have, the better off you are, and more you can sleep well at night. So don't piss it away on bullshit. Don't piss it away on girls, trying to impress women, all that, you know. Trust me, you know, for the guys who are watching this that are older, 30s, 40s, 50s, experience, share in the comment section about how important it is to have dough, have access to money, how much easier it makes your life. My ex is probably somewhere out there, broke as hell, going into student loan debt while trying to finish school, and getting her heart broken by sleeping with some stinky college hipster who simped his way into pump and dumper. I feel sorry for my ex, who may never find another long-term relationship like the one we had at the start, but I'm excited for my future and what I have built for myself. I don't feel bad for her, and I wouldn't either. But awesome for you. I have a bright path ahead of me, and no person can take it away from me. Yes, we're all masters of our own destinies, guys. Believe me, things will get in the way. There'll be setbacks, there'll be roadblocks, but you can persevere, get past them, find a way, no matter what happens, and you'll be fine. And don't, by the way, don't expect overnight success. Success takes time. And there's going to be a lot of failures on the way, but you learn from those failures and keep on grinding. Thank you for the content, and let this be a lesson to every guy out there to watch out for the feminist ideologies and slimy girlfriends who will try to bring down the unicorns out there who actually have a chance at marriage or settling down. Yes, exactly. So, great story, guys. Great story to the dude that wrote this in. I appreciate you doing that. I'm really proud of you. I'm glad you're doing well. Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome. But, and by the way, mark my words, sooner or later you're going to meet another unicorn. I just can feel it. It's in my gut, okay? Because you're doing well for yourself and you're actually out there talking to people instead of resorting to the dating apps. You're going to find another unicorn one day. And again, pay attention to who her friends are, okay? Pay attention to who she hangs around with. Pay attention to her family before your heart gets involved again. And if it happens and she stops being the person that she was initially, if you get a bait and switch or who the hell knows what, bail. Don't waste a big chunk of your life again and have a repeat of what happened, because life is funny. Life will come back and test you with some of the same shit before just to see if you learn something. Some people may think that's a bunch of BS, but that has been my experience time and time again. And if you keep failing, life will keep bringing back the same situations until you learn your lesson and move on. I know it sounds weird, but that's just me. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.